Interesting.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Mark Isaac Potter Presents. We're visiting today with Frank Navarro, who's, I hope, will become a frequent viewer. A frequent guest. I have one guest that's been on 11 times, so I'm going to have to start one of those SNL five-timer clubs or something.
Okay.
So, Frank, I really don't care what part of this you talk about as long as because the whole thing is to me is critical. We just have to, we human beings have to learn about this thing called fascism and why people voted in. These last two times, Hitler and Trump, people voted them in. So
Yeah.
what's up with that? I
It-
don't. Ugh.
Hitler is really, well, they're both interesting, but Hitler did not have the majority of votes in 1932. Uh,
Right.
and so the other political parties, the most
Put
important,
your Move your top of your computer a little bit toward you, just a little bit. That's plenty. That's good.
and so the Catholic Center Party, and directed by Klaus von Papen,
Okay.
um, put together a political coalition with the Nazis,
All
and
right.
they believed that they could control Hitler. They'd give him the chancellorship, and if he needed to make any moves, he'd have to go to the cabinet. And Papen said the Nazis don't have, I think they had 3 votes on the cabinet, and we'll be able to control the Nazis for our purposes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And and then
yeah.
Hindenburg, a legendary German general who had fought in the Franco-Prussian War, actually told Hitler, "If you try to become a dictator, I personally will step in and stop you," which was a real threat. So,
Do you think Kemet threatening that added to Hitler's attempt to become a dictator and successfully become a dictator?
I'm not sure. It was all moot because Hindenburg died about 6 months later. He was in,
Okay.
he was well
Okay.
in, he was well into his 80s,
All
and
right.
and he probably had, historians have said, the early stages of dementia.
But people were starting to think of the word dictator. So why did anybody even have that idea at that point?
Well, um,
What gave them the
Musso-
idea that he
Benito
would even
Mussolini,
try?
yeah, Benito Mussolini had taken power in Italy in 1922.
Okay.
He overthrew the German government. I'm sorry, the Italian government, and
While he was eating pizza. Okay.
and and fascism actually comes from that time and that moment. And
So Mussolini had a part in developing the concepts of fascism.
he certainly did. And
Now, what's his name had already written his book, right? Mein Kampf, Hitler or not?
well, Mein Kampf was dictated, written by Hitler while he was in jail. And because after his coup failed, he was
Right, he was jailed.
and he dictated the book to I at the
A per,
moment I can't remember, but he
a
dictated the book,
person.
and
Okay.
they put it out. It was you know lauded as a jailhouse writing, and
Okay.
and Hitler was inspired by Mussolini able to take power in Italy.
I
And
didn't know any of that. I didn't know any of that at all. I had no idea. I always thought Mussolini came later. I always thought it was exactly the opposite, that
yeah,
Mussolini kind of followed Hitler, but that's good to let us know. Okay,
uh,
so then you said their
actually,
Congress building burned down.
yeah, the Reichstag burned, and
Okay,
they brought out a feeble-minded Dutch communist, and Hitler claimed that he would protect the German nation if he had
special powers.
superpowers. And so they gave him the Enabling Act, which allowed him to create the laws on his own. And with that, he put together Dachau, the first concentration camp in Munich.
Yeah.
And they were off and running from there. And it was a couple
Ugh.
of years later that uh, a German diplomat was shot and killed by a Jewish young man in Germany, and so they used that to create the Night of Broken Glass, where Jews were attacked throughout Germany and Berlin and Munich, and you had thousands of Jews who were grabbed and put into jails, and then they were attacked, they were jailed, and I know one case personally of a young man who was 15 at the time. His mother was in the hospital, and his dad was away on business. And when he came home, a neighbor woman, he said a big German woman came over, grabbed me by the arm, and said, "You come with me." And she took him to her apartment and put him under the bed and saved his life because the police came looking for him. And when they came to her apartment, he could hear her telling them, "No, I don't know where he is. I haven't seen him." And she fed him and kept him there for 3 days.
Oh,
And
does that boy, that 15-year-old boy was a relative of yours or what? Your great
he was,
grandfather or something?
I taught a course called Facing History.
Right.
Facing History is based on the Holocaust, and I had guest speakers in.
Okay.
And uh, he kind of interesting. He moved here when he was 18 and 19. And he changed his name from Hans Kahn to Harry Kennedy.
Okay. Good for him.
And and when he could, in 1942, he joined the army and was
U.S.
actually
The U.S. Army.
the U.S. Army. And he eventually was sent back to Germany as as an American soldier. And
Okay.
and he went looking for that woman, and he couldn't find her. He wanted to thank her for saving his life. He actually had he was just an amazing man, amazingly kind man. Um, he had been taken prisoner, he and two other Americans, by the Germans, and they didn't realize that he could speak German, that he
Right.
understood German.
Right. Yeah. Good. Good. That
And
get good.
the commander of these four guys who were watching them told them, "Have them dig a ditch. We want this ditch. It's a sort of a tunnel. And after they've done it, shoot them all." And so they were digging the ditch. One of the guys wandered away. There were only two of them left. And they looked at each other and they waited until the man really relaxed. He put his rifle down, and then they took their shovels and killed him. They hit him in the throat and murdered him, and were able to get away. That's how their lives were saved. But wouldn't you know it? Harry Kennedy told my class it was one of his great regrets that he killed that German soldier. He
Oh,
said, "I killed somebody's son, brother,
yeah.
I,
Yeah.
and he said, to this day, I live with the memory of this man dying, and it's very, very hard to bear. This
Yeah.
man, um, Harry Kennedy, he was such a kind man. You would think maybe he had to kill him, but Harry didn't see it that way.
He
He just
thought just maybe
such,
disabling him would have been enough or something.
yeah. but
How
but
old was he when he got to your class? He must have been about 100 or so.
well, when he came to my class, remember, I'm 74,
I'm
and
74.
oh, right.
Now,
And he
how old was he when he got to your class?
He was in his 80s,
Okay.
and he lived in town. I live in Newark, California. I don't know if you know where
You
that
live in
is.
Newark?
Yeah.
I live in Fremont.
Oh, how about that?
We could visit. I have a lift service in this area. Only cities I can visit are Newark, Fremont, and something else, I think. Yeah, I didn't. Oh, maybe that's why we met in that restaurant because you were here in the area.
Um, I I I have a really nice marriage. My kids are grown and they're gone, but they live in the area. I see them quite a bit. But
Good.
I can that Starbucks has a table that I can write at, and nobody asks me.
Bothers you.
Yeah.
You'll have to give me the address of that place, and I'm happy to come over if you may not want me there. You may want to just
Oh, no,
write, but I
that it would be
I
terrific to see you again.
I'll fill the audience in here. I met Frank. I was out with a friend of mine. I forget which friend now, probably Dave. And we were both TV producers, so we're talking shop, and we get ready to leave. Now, bear in mind that I'm always asking people to be on the show everywhere I go, all the time. It drives my friends crazy. So this day I didn't ask anybody at all whatsoever. We get up to leave, and Frank says, "Oh, by the way," and I wrote this book, and I'm like, "Okay, well, whatever. Here's my number," which I've done probably close to 1,000 times over the last 23 years. No one has ever followed up ever,
Oh,
with the exception of Frank. So he's one out of 1,000, literally, numerically. And I'm so thankful because this business you're doing is just, I don't know. Anyway, tell it, I know we're going to talk about this book for years on end, but tell us a little more about yourself as a person. You have a nice marriage. You have how many rugrats, and how many rugrats do they have?
okay, I have 3 daughters,
Okay.
um, from 33 to 31. I my twin daughters who are 31, and they are married, and they have 4 kids at the moment. I say at the
Among the two of them.
Yeah, among the 3 of them.
Okay.
Anna
Okay.
has a um, Adeline, and she is 7 months. Alice has a Ruthie, who is going on a year, and Sadie has 2 kids who are 3 and 2.
Oh,
And
so beautiful.
and
That's so beautiful.
and Alice is I'm not going to
I like stuff like that. Anyway,
Alice has, and she's due with the son in May. So
okay.
we're close to having 5 kids, 5
Okay.
grandkids.
And we haven't met the puppy dog yet.
Oh God.
You got to put him in your lap and then lower the camera so we can see him. Or
She
just
is,
you could just go shopping and we'll interview the dog a couple shows.
yeah, she is really a pain, this dog.
Oh, but
She
you
was,
love her nonetheless.
she was our Alice's dog. Alice got her when she was a senior in college.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and she
Mm,
her roommate had a sister who was in my AP European history class.
okay.
And one day after class, her sister, Evelyn, came to me and said, "Have you seen Alice's new dog? She's beautiful. Oh, you're going to really like her." And I
Oh
said,
Lord.
"What are you talking about? Alice got a dog. She's a senior in college. She has no business getting a
Yeah,
dog."
I almost said that when you said that because I
Yeah.
thought maybe she got it when she was 6 or something.
And then I made this remark that is incredibly dense. I said, "Well, I hope Alice doesn't think I'm taking care of her dog."
Oh God help us all. So you
And,
put that out in the universe, and lo and behold,
and what happens is Alice, a year later, gets an apartment. She's working, and she tells me and her mom, listen, if you guys could take Coco just for a couple of months, get another apartment, I'll come back and get her. Okay.
yeah, oh yeah.
And
45 years later.
right. And
Oh my God.
and
What's it like? What's it like being a writer for you? I mean, I told you that I'm a writer too, probably. But what's it like for you? Do you write daily? Do you write certain hours of the day? How did you manage to finish a book? How do you be that disciplined to do that?
I put in 3 hours a day, generally in
Okay.
the morning. And if
Every day, pretty much, huh?
well, 5 days a week,
Okay.
sometimes six if I really have something to say. And writing for me is often rewriting. So
Okay.
uh, Hitler, Trump, and Me was written maybe 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
And I go back, excuse me, and I'm never quite happy with what I've done. So
Yeah.
then I do the revisions, then I give it to an editor.
Yeah. Well, somebody said it might have been Hemingway that, we never really finish it. We just let it go at some point. So,
I had an older friend when I was in high school, John Ivy, who was a basketball player, is really terrific guy. And when he was a junior in college, he wrote a book about what it meant to be growing up black in Oakland and trying to figure out what you were going to do.
right.
Would you try to become a professional? Were you going to be a hood? Uh,
Yeah.
what was living on the streets like? And it was a terrific read. And they were lauding him as the next James Baldwin, and he never wrote again. And I saw
Did
him.
that one book make it into the marketplace pretty well,
It
or?
did, and I'm trying to remember the name, and I probably will in a second.
Well, the internet
But
can tell us if his
you
name
know
is
what he
John
told
Ivy.
when I asked him, "Why didn't you write another book? Why didn't you
Yeah.
keep writing?"
Yeah,
And
yeah.
he said, "Because I had nothing else to say. I said everything that I wanted to say in the one book, and that was it."
Okay.
And then he took that money and opened up a restaurant in Jack London Square called Ivy's on the Square.
Okay.
And it was
Is
a
it still
hang.
there today or not?
It still is.
Okay.
And
Good.
it's kind of interesting. I walked in to the place. There's a heavy black presence there.
Yeah.
And when I came in, I had a few people staring at me. Said, "What are you doing here?"
Yeah, yeah,
And he saw me and came over and hugged me
yeah.
and took me
Oh,
over to introduce me to his friends.
God bless him.
But
That's
he
beautiful.
he insisted that since he had nothing else to say, none of his writing would be authentic. And
Well, that some people do feel that way. It's a valid way to
yeah,
feel. So I'll try to remember to look that up.
um,
So, what would you? We're going to close this out pretty soon, but what would you say to a person, young, old, or middle aged, who wants to start working on their first book or is in the middle of working on their first book? What would you say to them to try to inspire them to have the discipline and the energy to finish it?
I I put aside time every day and
Okay.
and always go back and read what you did yesterday and
Okay.
go from there. Sometimes
Okay.
it's really a journey. It's something that you can feel good about. Sometimes I'll look at it and say, "Wait a minute,
That is terrible.
yeah, it needs to be rewritten." But that's
Yeah.
all part of the process.
All
So
right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your valuable time. And when you get appointed to be the Librarian of Congress, give me a call.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, I love you guys, and I just love Frank and what he's doing for the world with these books. We hope to see you next time, and God bless you all. Frank, thanks so much for sharing with us. We care about you very deeply. Talk to you soon, okay?